So this video we're going to take a deep look into the new adapter for Cobra and the drivers for 2025, the DS Adapt. We've got 33 settings on this adapter, the most adjustability in any driver adapter we've seen from any brand on the market to date. It looks initially quite complicated on first look, but it is quite simple to sort of follow, and I'm going to break it down in this particular video. We're going to test some different options, some settings to see what it does to that ball flight and give you a better idea of how this works and maybe the best setting to suit your game. So really on first glance, when you look at this adapter, it looks really quite complicated. And I know for a fact, and this is what I said in my review video of the driver itself, is it looks confusing. And most golfers will look at that and go, oh my God, I can't cope with that. It's too many options, I'm out. Now, when you look deeper into this and look at the chart that Cobra have actually produced, it is quite straightforward. Yes, there's a lot of settings, 33 of them, but it's there to suit all types of golfers. And so we've got an independent sort of movable, a bit like the Callaway and the Titleist, where one section will move independently of the other. And that's obviously what's going to give us all these sort of options on there. Yes, we've got all the different head types to choose from, so it's finding the right head to suit your game, whether you're wanting forgiveness, you want speed, you want a little bit of adjustability of the weights in the particular head, then obviously that will decide which head model you will go into. But in this, we're going to take a look at the adapter and see how then we can dial in start direction of that golf ball, flight of the golf ball, trying to reduce a certain miss maybe for you as an individual, as a golfer, and obviously that's exactly what these adapters are going to do. Just want to quickly ask for your help. If you're watching the videos and you haven't subscribed and you're enjoying them, I really appreciate if you just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell as well, then any future videos that land on my channel, you'll be one of the very first ones to watch it. Right, let's get back to the video. Okay, so I'm just going to hit a load of shots first in the A1 setting. Don't need to show you all those flights, but obviously we're going to look at some dispersions, and then we're going to go to some extremes of moving this adjustability and see really what exactly it does to this sort of ball flight. So for this particular test, I'm using the DS Adapt X driver. So it's got the 10 gram weight at the back, the 3 gram weight in the front, and I've got it set. Oh, it's a 9-degree head, and I'm sitting at A1, which plays it basically in a standard position. So square club face, playing it at 9-degree, not adjusting the line, not adjusting loft or anything like that, as a standard setting, and then we'll work from there. Right, okay, so we can see a batch of shots. It looks quite nicely, to be honest, and pretty neutral on the flight. So A1 setting is quite neutral, so that's obviously suiting me quite nicely. So let's see how we can adjust this driver. Now, there's a QR code on the back of the driver, so with your phone, you can scan that QR code, and it will bring up this chart that I'm going to put up on screen, which basically gives you all the different settings. There's a letter and a number, and what you'll see there is A1 is right in the middle of that chart. Now, probably the best way to sort of think of this, because again, look at that chart and you go, well, what does all these numbers and letters mean in terms of adjusting a face to hit a certain ball flight? Best way to think of it is like A1 is that mid-flight, so that loft that you've got, whether it's a 9, whether it's a 10.5, is pretty much through that flight, neutral at that trajectory. Obviously, give or take strike location and a golfer's delivery, obviously. And that's where probably I would say, as a caveat to all of this, what I'm going to go through in this video, this is a fine-tuning tool, basically. This isn't going to solve all your problems maybe that you have in the swing, possibly, or your certain patterns as delivery into that golf ball. So I'd always recommend you get into a fitting scenario, get on a TrackMan or a Foresight quad or something like that, and work through these settings with a good fitter to try and dial this setting into to fine-tune your delivery. Okay, so A1 is in that middle. Now, basically, if you move to the right or to the left or the up and down, that is basically going to be your ball flight change. Okay, so for instance, let's go into B6. So you can see that's as like far right diagonally as we can go from that A1 positioning. So that should give us more loft on this golf club to slightly higher the flight, and obviously to the right there should actually sort of promote a little bit more of a right sort of shot for me. So as with all neck sleeve, you just literally undo the screw, turn it around, and obviously find the setting that is B, and then on the other toddle, turn it around to show 6, line that up with that little dot at the back of the hosel, and that is your setting at B6. Now, also, if you've got older Cobra drivers, those shafts or those adapters will not now fit into this new system, unfortunately. So that is probably the only downside to this is, you know, if you've got old ones, you want to move it in. If you've got a certain shaft you like and you want to carry that over into the new head, you're going to have to get that adapter changed over. Okay, so I can obviously see here now when you track the B6 on that graph, that is actually giving us 1.4 more degrees of loft from your 9 degrees. So that's taking me to 10.4. And then you can see across the top, from the lie angle point of view, I am going minus 1.4 degrees down in lie, which is basically flatter. So flatter lie generally opens up more of a right sort of promotion to the golf ball flight for a right-handed golfer, and obviously a little bit more loft. Now, the beauty with the Cobra driver and the smart pad, which we have seen in many drivers, is when you start changing around loft and lie, it doesn't affect the face angle too much at address. So what I'm saying by that is you sit this down, it still sits pretty square, which I think is quite a nice sort of feature, because sometimes, say for instance like a tailor-made driver, it's just one cog, you turn it up in loft, it'll shut the face, and you can't do anything really about that. And vice versa, if you drop the loft, it's going to open it, and again, you can't change that. So with the smart pad, which is basically like a little bit of a sort of a pad in the heel of the golf club, as you sit it down, it keeps the club face in a controlled square position. I think you will see subtle little changes, but maybe not as much as other drivers. Oh, that's a good strike. Yeah, and that's just moving a little bit up that right-hand side, actually. Not a lot, to be honest. Okay, right, there's a couple of shots hit with that B6 setting. Definitely seeing a little bit more of a right biased. Again, you sort of see a pattern there. You can see on that dispersion, just started to move a little bit more to the right. Okay, so let's get the wrench back out and we'll sit it in a different setting here now. So going back to our chart, let's go to more of a left view here now. So let's go E1, so the most left biases we can potentially sort of see. So again, using our chart here, we can see E1 looking from the bottom column here is 2 degrees more upright. So flat to more upright would try and change that flight pattern a little bit more towards the left-hand side for a right-handed golfer. And E1, you can see, sits at that standard loft, so that won't be changing the loft. So you can see how we can independently change lie and loft on these settings. So simple again, E first, line up the one to it, to that dot at the back of the hosel, tighten up, and away we go. Okay, so let's just see, has that changed anything appearance-wise in that sort of setup? And no, it hasn't. That club face is still sat very sort of square. Okay, yeah, fraction up the left, very straight flight to be honest, but a touch left. Just caught that a little bit low, so it has launched a little bit low. Oof, right, that's a bit of a hook there. Now, obviously that's going to be more me, but this is maybe a good example of this. If you tend to have certain shapes, so for instance, if you're a little bit more of a hooker of the golf ball, then obviously putting in the E1 setting isn't a great option because it's only going to promote that a little bit more. Again, it's not going to solve all your problems. If you went to the other end of the scale and shoved it to the other side, you know, to try and hit it more to the right and reduce that, it might just help you a little bit. I've hit that a little bit more toe. That was a bad swing from me, not a great strike. And that E1 setting hasn't helped, so that's compounded the issue a little bit more. And that's a good strike. It's a great ball flight. I really like the feel off that driver, to be honest, that Cobra. Some good numbers there. Oh, that's ripped. That is nailed. Swing's feeling good today, feeling a little bit quicker, touch more speed than I would normally get. Okay, so there's a few balls hit in that E1 setting, some really nice drives in there. The hook, as I mentioned, was probably a little bit more me than the drive, but you can maybe just see the little bit of the pattern of those shots just starting to be a tiny little bit more towards the left. Not by much, granted, but there's some help with that particular setting. Quite impressed with that really from Cobra. I think that is a great addition. As I say, when you first look at it, don't be too confused. Yes, 33 settings is ridiculous, but it's great for somebody like myself as a fitter. We can really sort of dial in and go to some extremes there to stop a certain shape of shot. So let the fitter control that. Once you've purchased the drive, it's been fitted for you, honestly, probably throw that wrench away. Don't go start tinkering because it will drive you crazy if you do and you're not fully understanding that chart. So hopefully you found that video useful. Post comments down below, let me know your thoughts on the new Cobra driver and that neck sleeve, and hopefully it will catch up with you all very soon.